Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for coming once again to our episode. If you're new here, this is Ainoa, and that's
Amanda Murray.
thank you so much for listening. If you've listened to us before, thank you for coming back. Story is actually I was flabbergasted by this story, Amanda. I really was. I can't wait to tell you all about it. And I can't wait to hear you guys' opinion. If you guys have an opinion after listening, please do put it in the comments because this case was quite controversial. We're going to be talking about the murder of David Jackson, and his wife killed him, his wife of 24 years, Penelope Jackson. Um, so there's a lot of ins and outs in this case, but can't wait to tell you guys about it. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So let's get this started. Let me tell you that at the
Can I
on the
say something really quick? I just want all of our viewers
no.
to know that I too have not heard this story. So I am very intrigued also. So we're going to hear it together. Go ahead.
Yes. So on the night of the murder, which was on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, unfortunately, um, David Jackson was 78 years old. His wife was a little bit younger. She was 66 years old. And they lived in a small coastal town. The name of it was Barrow in the UK. So this is not a case from here, from the United States, but it was a case that blew up all over the UK because of what you guys will see later. Um, they had been married. Now, Penny and David had been married since 1996. So this happened in 2021. They had been married for 24 years. And while looking at both of their backgrounds, they both had multiple marriages, and they were kind of like, turbulent relationships, especially on the side of Penny. Um, Now, Penny had been married 4 times. David was Penelope's fourth husband. Um,
Mm.
and yes.
'Cause I'm sorry, y'all. Listen, as somebody that's been married once, I can't imagine it doing it 4 times. Like,
And also to preface, I think the reason she struggled so much with her relationships is because she had gone through the foster system. So she harbored a lot of, I don't know, she wanted a traditional type of marriage because she had issues with like abandonment and commitment, and because I mean, and that makes sense, right? As a little kid, your parents leave you and you grow up in the foster system, and so you wonder like, why wasn't I good enough to be loved, right?
mm,
So, and I think she carried that through all of her relationships, that fear of failure, like if a marriage didn't work, then it was her
sense
fault, or
of belonging.
yes, she needed a sense of belonging. And I think again that carried on throughout her entire
And it
like
actually, sorry, just to say this really quick, it makes a lot of sense that she had been married multiple times then, because a lot of people that go through the system also have what they call the gypsy complex, where nothing feels like home to them.
I did not know that, but that makes sense. Yeah. So she married her first husband when she was only 18 years old, which is fairly young, especially you know, I mean, maybe back then it wasn't that young, but nowadays that would be considered pretty young. And she had 2 daughters from her first marriage. Now, she escaped that marriage because he was extremely abusive with her. So she escaped that marriage and then she married her second husband, which after a few years of marriage, came out as gay. And that's not as normal now, but back then you have to understand that, I mean, in the 70s, 80s
We
and
all
stuff like
covered it.
that, they all covered it up, right? Because it was such a taboo to be homosexual. But then the late 80s and the 90s came up and things started to opening up a little bit more. So, but it has to be devastating as a woman to find out that the man that you had married had no sexual attraction to you whatsoever.
Right.
Like, that has to mess up with like your trust in yourself and your trust in being able to read others. That, I mean, that was her second marriage. Now, to go on to marriage number three, marriage number three is actually super freaking sad because in marriage number three, that's when she meets David and she begins an affair with David. And her husband finds out about the affair and decides to commit suicide.
Oof.
Now, that's not her. I'm not putting blame on her because obviously it's not a rational response to kill yourself because someone cheated on you. That is not a rational response. So obviously there's something there that should, there's some psychological issue that her husband had that maybe he should have sought help with. I don't know, maybe you have a different opinion, but and that's not to blame him either. You know what I mean? It's just I don't think that blame is on her solely. Also, trigger warning, this case does have some, you know, we're going to be talking about some uncomfortable situations. So if you're easily triggered by suicide, etc., I just want to let you guys know that there's quite a bit of this in this case, right? Now, so like I said, she started seeing David while she was married to her third husband, and she did have a child with her third husband, but David actually raised her from when she was a kid. And he even went on to adopting her, right?
Okay.
Because which says something about a man that adopts a kid. It gives a sense of commitment, I guess.
Well,
Like,
it says a lot, in my opinion, it says a lot about a man if he stays with a woman after those things. Clearly he knew the affair was wrong. He's not slow or anything. So it's one of those things where it's like he knew the affair was wrong. They were busted. The husband did what he did, when he unalived himself. And he still was there. And he was there for the kid and
mhm.
everyone. So he held pieces together from a situation that, although he was a part of, wasn't really his own.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it just says something about David, to be honest with you, positive, I believe, about him. But now let's go on to him because we've covered her marriages. He had a son and two daughters from his first marriage, which ended when he was caught cheating with his second wife, Sheila Taylor. Um, and then that marriage ended when Penelope called over to Sheila and David's house and demanded Sheila let her talk to David. So Penelope was brazen. She was like the side chick, but she was like, listen, I need to talk to David right now. So that's when David had to come clean to Sheila that he had been unfaithful. Um, and that's how their marriage ended. And then after the marriage ended, they decided that's when he decided to marry Penelope in 1996. And to be honest with you, they both, she worked as an accountant for the army and he also was in the armed forces. So they had a lot in common, right? Because having a relationship with somebody that's in the military can sometimes be hard because you move a lot, because there's sometimes you're not in the same place, the hours suck. So they were making it work. And people said that even though they were both really headstrong, that they seemed to be like an idyllic match. You know what I'm saying? So everything seemed to be going perfect for
Okay.
them. Okay. But then in 1998, now while they're living in Germany at this point, um, this is going to be super sad. But in 1998, when they were living in Germany, um, they they got a call
Wait,
that
1998, so 2 years after they got married.
yes, 2
Okay.
years after they got married, they got a call. Um, Gavin, so David's only son from his first marriage, had committed suicide because he cheated on his wife while she was pregnant. And on the suicide note,
Mm,
he wrote, I am killing myself because I do not want to be like my father.
that's a hard pill to swallow.
That's a really hard pill.
That's a
To
really
s-
harsh pill to swallow. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, like, and the sucky part is that's probably not a conversation he had with his dad. That's probably just the last thing he had to say. And that's the sad part because, you know,
mm.
okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously, David falls into a super deep depression. Like he reached an incredible low. He wasn't the same person. He he started becoming aggressive towards Penelope and
Like
violent.
hands on her? Okay.
Yeah, and violent towards her. Because maybe and this is just my opinion. Okay, so nobody said this, but I think maybe it's possible that was subconsciously blaming her,
Oh yeah,
maybe like
absolutely.
projecting the guilt that he felt in himself after his
Well, think about the stages of grief. You know, there's you always feel guilt and then you always blame someone else. You have to go through a phase of blaming someone else. It's part of the grief phase. So for
exactly.
him, she was the closest person to him.
And I believe that he blamed her, and even though she wasn't the first person that he actually cheated on his first wife with Miss Taylor, not with Penelope, but
Right.
just the fact that she had actually interrupted his second marriage, and their marriage did come from an affair. I feel like he was just it was easy to project on her the guilt that he was feeling for himself.
Okay.
Okay, so and these violent episodes weren't just like behind closed doors. Like they got so bad that they were actually being like they were witnessed. And during the trial, um, the adopted daughter and the daughter of Penelope, Isabel, she goes on to testify about the three instances that she remembers seeing. And the first instance is in Germany after they go to visit him. So his two daughters, his son-in-law, I think, and his mom go to visit them in Germany, right? After this whole ordeal happens, and an argument starts between him and Penelope to the point that he holds a knife against Penelope's neck,
Mm.
and it takes three of them to pull him off of her. So he was like really angry. I mean, you have to be
This
completely.
sounds like a very toxic marriage.
It does, but it's weird because at first it seemed like they were such a great match, like they were made for
But
each
maybe
other.
they were made for each other if they're both that toxic. I mean,
Yeah.
and that sounds sad to say out loud. I'm not. But let's keep going because I'm not sure yet. I got to
Yeah,
figure out
no.
the side I'm on.
But obviously he was super angry. Like people say it was like an absolute total loss of control. Then another occasion, Isabel, she recounts that he saw him, David, smash like a cup of chocolates that she had gotten Penelope for Mother's Day. So that's the second instance. And then another one says that she came home to find David pushing Penelope. So her mom, and she came home from school because Isabel was still young during this time, right? Um, and at that point, Penelope had a bloody nose and she was pinned against the wall. So obviously, there had been some physical, you know, he punched her or something in the nose because her nose was bleeding. Right. So it was like serious acts of violence were actually occurring in the home. The good thing is that he did decide to get help. So he went to a psychologist to try to treat his depression and try to deal with the demons that were stemming from what had happened with his son. He did try to get help, and everybody said that he was getting better, that he was actually getting better. Um, and Penelope ended up forgiving him, right? So she forgives him, and they continue to stay together. And for what everybody thinks and what everybody sees, the rest of their life is complete, like, you know, rainbows and butterflies, right? Like they after they get out of the military, they're retired, they have like a stipend, like a pension. um they take several cruises during the year. They
Look like
actually
you're living
go.
life.
Yeah, they're enjoying life. They're at this stage in life with where they're old, and they're enjoying life. They're traveling around. They actually spend, because the UK is kind of cold, so they actually spend the winters in Spain, which is awesome. See, I have some pictures of them. This is them here, and this is them. I can only imagine that the first picture of them is in Japan, maybe. But see, they seem to be enjoying life together, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, they look like a happy couple. They look like they enjoy each other's company.
yeah, um, they really do. But so not everything is what it seems, I think. And I think relationships, when you're in a relationship with someone, right, what the world sees as your relationship being is not always what it actually is behind closed doors. Um, but friends and family of David did say that he was an absolutely wonderful man, that he was like kind and
Even though
yes.
he had those violent outbursts.
Even though he had those violent outbursts after he got help, they did say, the son-in-law did say, that he did not like to show his emotions. So that was a bit concerning to him. But overall, even Isabel, so even Penelope's biological daughter, which is David's adopted daughter, said that, that was her father, right? And she said he was a good man. So everybody agreed that he was a good man. Uh, Penelope did not very much agree with the picture that was being painted of David. Actually, there's WhatsApps of her saying that he was the devil incarnate. So she did not agree with the picture that was being.
Incarnate, does that mean reincarnated?
Yeah, so yeah, basically the devil reincarnated. Yeah. So she says that he was violent, that he was a bully, and that it was worse when he drank, which I think is something that we can all
Yes.
understand, right? I mean, you go and you get drunk, and like innovations would look like they go out the freaking window. Um, and if you're happy, that can be a good thing. But if you're angry, it's like you have no sense of self control. So if you're using alcohol as medicine for depression or for whatever it is that you think you have, well, that's a problem, because you're just going to become angrier, right? It's not, yeah. So, um, it only makes a bad situation worse, to be honest with you. And what even made it even worse is the lockdown. So COVID happens. What
Oh,
happens,
and
right?
how old are they at this point?
Well, the murder was in 2021. She was 66. The lockdown happened Yeah, so 65 or so.
So it's retirement age officially for her.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
she's probably in the house a lot more and COVID happens. Okay, continue.
Yeah, they're both in the house, and I think that happened during COVID and the lockdown. It was like there was an up, like there were like the cases of like abuse, even like with children and women, and all types of abuse actually increased. But that's because now you're locked in your house with your abuser, and you have no escape. Like there's nothing you can do. You can't go anywhere.
I just
Um,
need to say that I want you to tell my story someday.
okay.
You tell this story really well, and COVID was horrible for people that were in toxic relationships.
It
So,
really was. It's like, especially when, like, listen, when you're in a toxic relationship, even the sound of someone breathing bothers you.
yeah,
Like,
walking, loud steps,
mhm,
any
why
noise.
are you breathing?
Yep.
Yeah. Why are you chewing your food like that? Like any little thing pisses you off. And I know because it's happened to me, and it's like it'll be irrational things. Like, it's not rational, but it happens. When you are so in a relationship that you're unhappy with, you're going to nitpick and you're going to pick on everything because you just hate that person. You just don't like that person. Um but so anyways, she does unfortunately start drinking during the lockdown because she feels like a prisoner. She doesn't feel like she has any escape. And so she starts drinking heavily. She goes to see a doctor, like a psychologist, to try to help with her drinking. um but I mean, a doctor can only do as much as he can do. Like, it has to be, when you have an alcohol problem, it has to come a lot from you. I think an addiction is an addiction. Like, I smoke, so a million doctors can tell me to stop, but if I don't, then
Then
but
it's
she
also
was exactly, but she was willing, she wanted to get help, because she went out of her own like volition. She went to
right.
the doctor to get help. So she wanted to get help. She wanted a way out. She just, I don't know whether or not she stopped drinking. It doesn't say. I don't know. But alcohol does imply it, like, amplify everything. So if they were both drinking, that's a problem. And an example of this is on December 23rd of 2020, she calls the police to come to their house. She has locked him in the greenhouse. Because the fight started over the remote control.
Petty, petty, penny.
um, yeah. I mean, the remote control will do it to you. I
So I'm not a TV watcher, so I'll never be that person. But if you take my book, so I get it. Nope, I get it. I mean, she wanted to watch her TV, and how did she convince him to get in the greenhouse though?
I have no idea, but what I did find out is that in the UK, the greenhouse is like well, a it might be greenhouse or like sunroom, because it was like, so in the UK they're called conservatories. I
Now
had
I
to
understand the clue game. Okay.
listen, I had to Google this because I was like, conservatory, isn't that for like music? So I put conservatory UK, and it came up that it's like a greenhouse or like a sunroom, but that's attached to the house. You know what I mean? Basically,
Oh, okay. So he got locked in the sunroom.
yeah, but it's like a sunroom where everything is glass. So it is like, that's why they say greenhouse, because they're usually meant to like grow plants in them. You know what I mean? Not
Okay,
to
so
put
it's not like
rocking
how like
chairs.
my mom's sunroom is, where it's like 30 windows all around every wall, like the ceiling and everything is glass.
The ceiling and everything is glass,
Okay.
but it is attached to the house. So it's not like a stand.
So
Like, he did.
it's an attached an attached greenhouse. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, but I don't know how she managed to get him in there, but she got him. She got him in there. Um, and that says something that kind of says that she at this point she
I
might
bet
have
you
been a
she said the flowers were crying.
the flowers were crying.
People that grow plants think they can talk to them.
Oh, really? Oh,
I only know because my partner likes to grow plants and makes his own compost and talks to his plants and things like that. So that's the only reason I know that. But yeah,
well,
but that's what I would have done. I'd be like, hey, your plant just said something. Go see what it wants.
listen, I have not met a plant that I cannot kill. That is
Me either, which is why I'm not in charge of the lawn. Because if I even breathe around it wrong, it's all gonna die.
yeah, same here. But so the police who come to the house, and it does say something though about Penny's state of mind. I call her Penny. I don't know. We're not friends, but I call her Penny. It
I
does
give you
say
permission.
thank you. It does say something about her state of mind, right? Because if you're to the point where you're locking him in a greenhouse and calling the police, you have to have some fear for your safety. I mean,
Right.
I believe so. Um, he is hurt, like, because she recorded him. She recorded him, and in the recording, you can hear him in the background, well, saying that he will, if she opens the door, like he will leave her, if she wants him to.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, I don't she didn't let him out though until the police came. They talked to both of them. They gave her one of those psychological tests, like when you go to the doctor where they tell you how on a scale from 1 to 10 how depressed are you, on a scale from 1 to 10, or like 1 to how many days you overeat, how many, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Is that like when we go to the ER here in America and they're like, do you feel safe at home? Are you
Yeah,
feeling any so like a random standardized are you okay mental health check?
yeah. So the police had her filling out one of those, and she passed, and then they also called her a couple days later, and she did say everything is fine. It's just that he had an implant in his brain. They had recently changed the batteries, that it was the implant was there to control the tremors that he had in his hands and limbs.
Did he
So
have
what I'm
Parkinson's?
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking he had Parkinson's, because he had some like health problems. I'm thinking he had Parkinson's, and so they probably installed like a VNS type of apparatus in his
Okay.
brain, and that they
So it
had
can help
recently
from like being abducted. Okay,
being
maybe
a
this story is not as exciting as I thought. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
um No, but so they installed this apparatus. They had recently changed the battery, and she told the police officer, "Hey, they um they lowered the voltage, and so he seems to be back to being himself." Right? But I think and they let it go. They didn't contact her again. I think it's important to note here though that during this time, after the murder, you know how they do like searches on your computer, like your search history. During
Mhm.
this time, she was actively searching for like abuse shelters, and she was actively searching on ways on how to escape, right?
That tells me that she was trying to find a way out. She was trying to leave.
She was. And maybe it's because she wanted to feel empowered, and maybe she wanted to know that she could, you know, explore those avenues if she wanted to leave. I don't quite understand why. I mean, I don't want to say that because it's so easy to tell somebody, why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you
Yeah,
just
but it's never for the actual person in the situation, and I speak from personal experience, it's never as easy as that.
It really isn't, especially and again, I go back to she grew up in a fostered environment. She felt that, I mean, she had already had 3 marriages. They were all failures. She was gonna fail again, like,
And this was
you
her
know
longest marriage.
yeah. And this was her longest marriage. The man that had raised her daughter, she it's so easy to tell someone just leave, but it's so hard when you're in that situation to do so. So,
Even after you leave as a person in any long form abuse situation, that you still question if you made the right decision to walk away. You know, you question yourself on if you overreacted, and that's probably what she was going through with the whole greenhouse thing. So, I mean, I can't speak. I don't know their relationship, but that's what I'm kind of gathering. Because why else would she Google that? You know, if that was the case and she just wanted him dead, the Google would be a lot different.
yeah, no, but I think she was potentially thinking about leaving or escaping because she I mean, it had to be hard to be in the same house 24/7 with someone. Neither of them were working. Both of them were on pensions and they're stuck in a house. And this is not like I feel like in the United States it wasn't easy, especially if you lived in a city, but if you lived in the country or the suburbs, I feel like I don't know, here you have more room, more space,
Well,
right?
and during that time, as someone that was actively going through their situation during COVID, there I don't care how big your house is, how small your house is. When you're going through something, you're going through something. And prior to COVID, I was able to have enough of an out and enough of breathing room to feel like I wasn't completely drowning. But when things started shutting down, people stayed home. And you can only run so far from your abuser in a house, however big it is.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing to remember. And during COVID in America, America didn't listen to that shutdown stuff. I almost cursed for no reason, but we didn't. I mean, we were still out at the restaurants. We were still out shopping. Nothing really shut down in America like it did overseas.
Yeah, no, overseas they were really, really, really strict,
Hmm.
super strict. But now we've kind of explored both of them, and we're at the point where is the night of February 13th, 2021, which coincidentally is also her birthday. And because it is her birthday,
Also, side chick day.
oh really? Which is perfect because she just kidding. I mean, she was a side chick for there for a
Right.
while, but um so hmm, I didn't know that that was side chick day. Now I
Yeah.
know.
I don't actually know that. I just hear a lot of comedians say it's either the 13th or the 15th, depending on how many side chicks they have.
That's fucked up. It's funny, but I mean, well, anyways, it's the night of the murder, right? It's her birthday. So her daughter Isabella buys them like lobster and champagne. I guess to have delivered to their house. And they get on like a 4 hour Zoom call. So they're not together in the same room. I know 4 hours is long to be talking to your parents. But her
Oh, they were
husband,
talking to whose parents?
Isabella is Penelope's daughter, right?
Mhm.
David's adopted daughter. And since it was Penelope's birthday, they sat down to dinner together, but over the computer screen. So they were on a
Okay,
Zoom
so it was
call.
Isabella on the 4-hour Zoom call.
Isabella and her husband, and Penelope and David. So,
Got it. Okay, now I understand.
yeah.
Because I thought you were saying that, Penelope and David talked to one of their parents, and I was like, "Oh, man."
No, they're probably dead. I
Well, I
mean,
was thinking that too, but if they weren't, I thought it was pretty cool that at their age, they knew how to use the laptop.
mm, no. So, yeah, they were on a, the daughter got them like lobster and champagne, and then they sat down and had a 4 hour Zoom call, which, you know, the daughter says was lovely until they started arguing because David was very upset that Penelope served for the first course um steak and something really weird on the side. As like the side is what is it called? Hold on. It's I forgot what it's called, but it's like a mixture of like cabbage and potato. It's like a peasant type of dish.
Got it.
Uh, it has a really funny name. Hmm. It's called squeak, and you know what? I'm gonna think about it. Bubble and squeak. So she served
Okay.
steak with bubble and squeak, which is such a cute name.
Yeah,
But
I actually really like that name. I think I'm gonna name my next dogs that.
bubble and squeak,
Hold on,
I
sweet.
really like it. It's like a cabbage and potato dish, usually like served with an egg on top. I had to Google that as well because I was like, "What is bubble and squeak?" There's probably a typo here because
So I kind of was with the whole like cabbage and potato thing, but I'm Irish, so we like potatoes with everything. Until you said egg. Now it
yeah.
kind of threw me off. Like I don't think I want to taste it anymore. But I really liked bubbles and squeaks until I found out an egg was involved.
Well, I think it sounds delicious even with the egg on top and serve it with steak, like steak and eggs. I mean, the only thing that I don't like from there is the cabbage, to be honest with you.
But wait, she served this meal, so she cooked her own birthday dinner.
Yeah, and the daughter sent her lobster as well, but I think it's because okay, so not so normally here because it does specify first course. Um, I think it's more normal in Europe to have more than one course,
Right.
right? So have like first course, second course, and dessert. So for the first course was like the steak and this bubble and squeak, and
Hmm.
maybe the second course would have been the lobster, and then
Right.
maybe the dessert would have been the champagne, right? Something like that. I don't know. But he was very annoyed, and I don't know if he was annoyed at the fact that he served bubble and squeak with the steak, or it was like a physicalization of how he was like the annoyance that he was feeling towards her already. You know what I mean? It was just that was just an excuse to get pissed at her. Then they also started arguing after that about who didn't charge the laptop because apparently the battery. So they started arguing about who didn't charge the laptop, and that's when the call ends
Right then, at that moment, she like stabbed him in the fork with an egg.
with
Stabbed
an
him in
egg.
the fork. Hold on. I meant in the eye with a fork, but I said in the fork
Okay,
with an egg.
with an egg.
Never mind. Never mind. Keep going.
And so that's when the call ends, right? Obviously, probably because the laptop died. And it's something why are you arguing about that? Just grab the charger. It's really simple, quite honestly. Just you grab the charger and you plug it in. It's not something worth arguing about,
Right.
right? But I don't know. The daughter said it were great times until the fighting, erupted. And then tension started bubbling. They kept yelling, they kept arguing to the point where, you know, Penelope decides to go to bed and she decides to stop by the kitchen first and grab a kitchen knife to put it under her pillow, right? I guess she needed to feel safe. Maybe the argument had led her to believe that, I don't know, that she was in danger, whatever the case. But she went to bed with a knife under her pillow. And then she woke up, right? Shortly after she went to bed. I don't know if she falls asleep because it says that she woke up. Um and she told David that she was going to kill herself, that she couldn't do it anymore. She tells him, "I've had enough. I'm going to kill myself." To which David responds, "Get on with it then."
Oh, really?
Mhm.
I
Get
feel like
on with
already
it.
justifiable homicide.
Well, when he said that, she thought to herself, she didn't say this out loud, although she probably did. It just says she thought to herself, "Why should it be me? It should be you."
Yep.
That's exactly what she thought. But she goes to him asking him for an apology, right? Which is probably not the right thing to do because if he's told you to go ahead and of yourself, that
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't care, he's probably not in the right state of mind to right now say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Like, you're pissed at him and he's pissed at you. He's probably not going to
And he did
apologize.
say it. Well, and even if he did. At that point, she's not going to accept it.
Yeah, no.
Things you can't unsay.
But she did want him to apologize. Instead of apologizing, he called him she claims that he called her pathetic. And then turned around and laid down on because they had separate beds, laid down on the bed and egged
He
her
even pushed
on.
his bed together with hers on the night of her birthday.
Yeah, no.
This is justifiable homicide. I don't even need to hear anymore.
Stop it. A lot of couples have like separate beds. It's not.
I know, but on holidays and special occasions like birthdays, they typically push the beds together to sleep. I know. My grandparents had separate beds.
Yeah, but not when they're arguing so much.
But it was her birthday. See, this is
So you're hanging on to the fact that he was sleeping in a separate bed and not to the fact that he told her to get on with it then.
no,
Because
but I'm
I mean,
saying the mix between all those things makes this justifiable homicide.
okay, Amanda. I don't know. I mean, you're free to your opinion. Again.
Well, I don't really have one yet, so keep going.
Okay, so she says that while he's like laying down on the bed, I guess she had mentioned to him that, it should be you, right? And so he provokes her, like he eggs her on to like stabbing him, like you're not gonna fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't gonna do it. You're not gonna do it. Um, but he was wrong. And at this point, she stabs him in the chest.
Was
He
the
like,
first stabbing like fatal?
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
He managed to call 999, which is the UK equivalent of 911,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So he manages to call the police, and then she stabs him 2 more times
Well, after he's called the police.
after he has
So was
called
he
the
like
police.
on the phone with the police when this happened?
Yeah, they can actually. What she says is that he eggs her on, and what that he says to her, you can't even stab me right, like you can't even kill me properly. That's
Mm.
what she says that he said before she stabs him, like the second and third time, right? But the thing is, that doesn't coincide with the fact that during the 999 call, you can hear him like agonize in pain when she stabs him the second and third time, right? And in the 999 call, you don't hear him saying, oh, you can't, you didn't even do it right. So it does make it seem as if the second and third stab were definitely not provoked, and it was just her wanting to finish what she had, started.
And there's no way to ultimately know she if he actually said that or if she made it up in her head, because during traumatizing situations, people make things up in their head all the time and hear and see things that aren't really happening.
Exactly. I think she was beyond herself, to be honest with you. But David, he's on the phone, but after being stabbed the other 2 times, like he's bleeding and he goes unconscious. And that is when Penelope grabs the phone from him. And I actually have part of the 999 call that the police released. So let's go ahead and listen to that, you guys.
With him now?
Well, I might just go and stab him again, but
All right, do not stab him again.
why?
Okay, so just listen to my voice. Okay?
Yes.
Stay on the line with me.
I am complimented.
Okay, are you with the patient now?
Well, I'm in the lounge and he's in the kitchen bleeding to death with any luck.
All right, so just stay on the line with me. All right, madam,
I don't
how many
want
times
you
have you stabbed him?
I did the once.
You did the once?
And then he said I wouldn't do it again, so I did it twice more.
So, okay. So in total, how many times?
3 times.
3 times, okay.
Once I thought I'd get his heart, well, he hasn't got one, and then twice in instruments.
So yeah, that's part of the 999 call.
Okay,
And
can we touch on that a little bit, because she didn't sound like a woman that was in distress. She sounded like she was angry. She sounded
yeah,
like she had been antagonized. She sounded pissed.
she sounded like she was
Like
satisfied.
I'm in the lounge and he's in the kitchen, hopefully bleeding to death.
Hmm.
It
And
stabbed him in his heart, haha, like he has one.
just to add a couple more things that you weren't played on the call, or that you don't know, is that she actually spent 18 minutes on the 999 call. Um, Part of those 18 minutes was the operator asking her to please help him, and she refused to help him. At one point, he says,
Like
"Well, we don't."
she wouldn't help the husband, or she wouldn't tell 999 where she was at.
No, she told 999 where she was at. She's like, "I'm at the lounge. He over there bleeding." No, she wouldn't help the husband, like, do CPR or, like, try to cut. Like, at one point, the 999 operator tells her, "Hey, we don't want him to die." And she responds, "I do." Right?
Okay.
So this was, and this is okay, so this call that you just heard right now. This is a big part of why this case was so controversial, right? Um because she sounds so callous, so cold, so calculating, that it is very easy for the media to give you a one-sided story, right? It's very easy to have a villain and to have a hero, right? And to just uh, and to forget all the other details, forget everything else, and then just use and write and speak about the story that kind of like, what do you call it, the story that fits into the mold that you have created. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You've so that's why this case was so controversial, because of these calls in specific. um but anyways, it's such a really, like, tragic, because it went from supposedly being such a great birthday night to, you know, to him being murdered. Um, and what she says is that she felt like he had belittled her. It was her special day, and he had once again made her feel like she was not important, that she was irrelevant, that she was nothing, right?
Unworthy.
Unworthy, yeah. And it was her special day, so for her, I don't know. I think it triggered something in her. He did message She did actually text message her daughter, after, and this goes back to when the Zoom call ended. She messaged her daughter and said, "Hey, I just want you to know that if everything goes tits up, I love you. And I love you to the ends of the world." And the daughter called her, and just to make sure everything was okay, and she did say, and this was before they went to bed, and she did say that everything was fine, right? Which is, I'm glad the daughter did that, because if the daughter hadn't called her mom, I feel like the daughter would have felt some sense of guilt. You know what I'm saying? For not
Right.
having. Exactly. But I mean, now, what I want to play for you before we go any further is the actual police footage
Okay.
of when they got to her house.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
He's on the kitchen floor.
Okay, at this moment in time, okay, if you just listen to my colleague, Under arrest suspicion of attempt murder, mate. Under arrest suspicion of attempt murder. And you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned anything you later rely on in court, and if you do say may be given in evidence.
I'll go in and see what they're doing.
Yeah. Could I get my coat? Just bear with me 2 seconds. In there. I admit it all.
Alright.
Just get them. Alright, I want to go in. Alright.
No,
so,
he's on the kitchen floor.
Can someone just stay with Devon while I go in?
There's nothing nasty, and I'm certainly not. My coat's in the.
Yeah, just wait 2 seconds. Alright, you okay? You alright?
With any luck, you'll be too late.
Alright.
What's your name, my love?
Well, I'm called Penny, but Penelope Jackson.
Do you live there? You do live here?
Yes. Can I get my
I'm gonna
coat?
run to the restroom. I'll be right
Get
back.
the ambulance in. Pronto, we need
Oh,
CPR.
don't. No, please don't.
Yeah, we
Oh,
need
I
the
should
ambulance in.
have stabbed him a bit more.
We've got CPR being done at the moment.
Yeah.
Come on.
Penelope, come with me, mate.
Issue.
Band, okay?
Yes. I stabbed him once. Because he's a.
No, I'm going to send them all out.
He's an aggressive bully and nasty, and I've had enough. And when he said you wouldn't do it, I did it twice more. Coats in.
What colour's your
go
coat?
in the front. In the front.
Yeah.
Grey wardrobe.
Okay, it might be a while, all right, but I'll try and get. There's obviously a lot going on. Okay.
Oh,
but
with any luck, it'll be too late.
Penelope, my advice is don't talk about it now. Okay.
No, I have no intention of not agreeing to what I've done.
Okay.
I know what I've done.
All right.
And I know why I've done it. And if I haven't done it properly, I'm really annoyed.
Alright, Penny. I'm further arresting you for murder.
Oh, good.
I've already cautioned you,
Yes.
so your necessities for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation
Yeah.
and stop further harm.
Sorry, that one's a bit tight.
So,
This
Penny,
one's good.
We're gonna
We're going to move them
Well,
to
the
the rear
rear
in a
in a minute.
moment. The DO's just come out to check your temperature, and then
Right.
we'll move you in. And then
mind
we'll
your
go
head.
from there. Just stay there for the time being.
All right. I wouldn't buy my slippers.
Alright,
I'm not
do you want her out?
exactly.
Yeah. Right, just step out, mind your head.
Yeah. Rightio. I'm very sorry for being a nuisance.
We just got to take a temperature, okay?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be just really great. Get COVID on the top of it.
So,
Listen, my favorite part of the whole thing is when they arrived. She said, with any luck, he'll already be dead.
it sounds really funny because I think it sounds unbelievable that would be someone's reaction. It doesn't seem like a logical reaction, right? And I think that's why she was painted as this evil, like,
Listen,
woman.
I got an opinion on that. If you don't mind me sharing.
No, go ahead.
If you have never been through what that woman just went through for years, people will paint you in all kinds of lights. If you have never been in an abusive situation where you're just done and you're just fed up, and all that matters at that point is leaving that behind, then you have no idea. The tears are no longer shed because they were shed 3 million times throughout the marriage. The fear is no longer there because the only fear is it's either you or them.
Mm-hmm.
People that have never been in that situation do say exactly what you were saying earlier. They're like, well, you could have just left. No, you can't. Like, I can tell you deeply that it is not always as easy as people think it is. And even when you think you got just a glimmer of hope, that person finds a way to mess it up some more.
Yeah. That's exactly. I mean, I think we're going to agree on this opinion, to be honest with you. I think that everybody was shocked by her reaction after it happened. I think everybody thought she was ultimately guilty because of the way that she spoke, of the things that she said after she killed him, because she felt relieved. She felt a sense of relief. She wasn't sad. She wasn't upset. She was relieved. He was gone. She was no longer in prison and she was relieved. And I'm honestly, I think it's so hypocritical for the media and for everyone to not realize that the sense of relief after having been through an abusive relationship, it's 100% normal.
Mm-hmm.
I actually believe her more because she reacted like that than if she would have reacted like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sad that he's gone. I didn't mean to do it. I think that if she's so cold, it's probably because in some way she has disassociated herself from that event. You know what I mean?
It's the only
Like,
way to get through it.
it's the only way to get through it. And I think it's so hypocritical for us to judge her for feeling relief for having murdered her like the person that she felt. And again, I'm not in that relationship, so I don't know. I'm going by what she's saying, right? And by the accounts of things that have happened, right? Because if he was that violent to her in public, personally, I don't doubt that there was more.
At home.
Exactly. Right. So I think that she's even more believable because of that. And I'll tell you this, like, just to give you like an analogy, for instance, and this is like not comparable in the sense that I don't know, it's like a bigger scenario, right? But say, for instance, like a terrorist, take Bin Laden, right? Even he was scaring everyone. Everybody was afraid to get on flights. He didn't even have to be there and like be there in the room with you. We all knew that he existed. We all knew that what he was capable of. And entire countries, citizens were afraid of what was going to happen, what was going to happen next. When he was killed, across countries and across cultures, the sense that everybody felt, the feeling that everybody felt was relief. Everybody felt relieved that he was no longer there to be
They
able.
no longer had to be afraid.
Exactly. And
And
I'm
that's what
sure.
that woman feels while she's talking to those police.
Exactly.
You can see that she's calm. And she's like, no, I'll take whatever it takes because at least it gets me out of this.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm not, again, comparing Bin Laden to David Jackson. That's, I mean, it's stretch, right? But in a sense, I feel like in an abusive relationship, whether that be a man, woman, or child, the person that is being abused, the abuser to them is nothing more than a terrorist in a smaller
Right.
scale.
And that's what I was about to say is it's not a stretch for Penelope. I bet you she feels the same way about Bin Laden that she felt about David.
I mean, maybe not the same way. Maybe
I
she
feel
probably.
the same way. I mean, I was never directly afraid of Bin Laden. He didn't like have my address.
That's what I was gonna say.
But
She's
my
probably
abuser
more.
did.
But so yeah, I think it's like such. So I think it was an injustice for the media to. I'm not saying not it wasn't an injustice that they showed the police footage. Um, it was an injustice that they judged her for that. I feel like it was an injustice that they didn't explore the entirety of the situation, right? They focused on the fact that this was an evil woman, that this was a good man, and after 24 years, she went crazy one day and stabbed him. They didn't explore the relationship more. Um, so she gets arrested, as you guys saw, and at this point, she's in jail. The lawyers have now told her shut the fuck up. Because now
So has
she's not
she already
talking no
been to
more.
court for this?
She has been to court for this. It didn't take long for it to be deliberated on. It was, I mean, during the court, a lot of more facts came on. Like she said that he sexually abused her. He forced her into, having intercourse with him. That he was physically abusive multiple times that throughout their entire marriage, and this all stemmed from his son's suicide. On the other hand, we had his family saying he was a great man. Um, Even her daughter said, "I love my father. He was a great man." So there's that conflict. It's super sad because that's her mom, and I don't know how. I honestly don't understand how, if it's true, if the violence is true, I don't understand how Isabella uh didn't support her mom more. Does that make sense? But Penelope got a really, really, really good lawyer to fight the murder charge. They were not going to do self-defense. It was not a self-defense defense. It was more like, I forgot what it's called, but basically,
Was it similar
um
to Gemma Donahue with battered spouse syndrome?
no, it was like a temporary insanity defense.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, sort of, right? Just basically, in a moment, I snapped, but now I understand what I did was wrong. But in that moment, I wasn't, I was outside of myself,
Mine, right.
right? It took the jury about 10 hours to deliberate. And I think what hurt her the most, to be honest with you, is the footage, the 911 call, and the footage of the police. They did come back after 10 hours with a guilty verdict for murder. Now, Europe is usually way more lenient when it comes to sentences than the United States. Like in the United States, you would have gotten like a trillion, million, quadrillion years, probably. But
It would be something like 38 life sentences. What?
yes, I know. Like I never understood that, to be honest with you.
How many lives
Um,
do you get in prison? Like, do you get extra lives when you go level up or something?
you
Like,
level up. No, she got the judge sentenced her to a minimum of 18 years. So I guess after 18 years she can apply for parole and stuff. They are fighting this, and there's a lot of debate because societies or like groups that helped abuse women feel like juries don't understand the implications of what it means to be abused. So they can't, how can they, and how
I
can they
agree. I think that
determine?
if it would have been a jury of her peers, it should have been a jury of abused women.
Yeah, but then this is such a hard case. Like, I'm conflicted because I don't think that she should have killed him. I think it was wrong for her to kill him.
So I don't know
Because
if I could get in trouble for saying this, but I get it. And if I
I
had
am
the chance to go back and change my leaving, if that's what we call it, I would pull a penny.
pull a penny. I like it.
I would pull a penny. Because there's
Listen,
no fear left in her.
no, there isn't. I don't know, and I don't think she should have killed him. I think she obviously was in a really bad situation. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this because it is not easy to get out, but she wasn't, like, if she would have called her daughter would have come and gotten. You know what I mean? Like she did have a support system.
I did
I
too.
feel bad. Yeah, you did too. I just
I mean, now just so we're clear, guys, I didn't kill my abuser. He's still alive out there.
now I
But
will
sometimes your support system doesn't matter because no matter how many times people say I'm here for you, or you can come stay with me, or just come to my house, it doesn't matter because the fear doesn't go away.
yeah,
You
it's true.
know, and I can sit here 4 years later and still tell you. I mean, Miss G over there can still tell you that I have days that I'm still scared out of my mind for no reason. It's not like my abuser is coming back. It's not like I invited, them down for the weekend to hang out. And
Yeah,
if
no,
I
it's not rational.
right, but it's there and it's real. And you can't get rid of it unless you do what Penny did.
Yeah, but okay,
Penny,
just let me show you the other side of this is that
right.
I can kill my husband today and then just say I'd been abused for like, the past 10 years and then I should get off because of it and I
You
don't.
know what? No, I completely agree with you. But there's not documented proof of him physically putting his hands on you before.
True. But what I'm trying to say here that I don't know. It's like I said, a hard
Well,
case.
no, I completely agree because I actually know, and I don't like personally know, but I've like read stories and stuff like this, especially while we've been investigating more and more true crime stories about girls who have lied and said, "Oh, he put his hands on me. I'm gonna get an order of protection." Da da da, and it never really happened, but they believe it because it's her word versus his. And
Mhm.
but a lot of those people are, I'd rather be safe than sorry. My concern with their story is number one, Isabella not speaking up more. Like, what is Isabella's opinion?
Yeah. I mean, she did speak up during the court and did, like I said, state those 3 cases where she had witnessed the violence. But nothing after he got help. So supposedly after he got help, everything was great. Right?
See, and it's
But
hard.
Penelope,
It could just be from her perspective that it was great. Or it could just be that Penny was making up this miserable life in her head because of so many abandonment issues she had incurred over the years that she turned herself slightly schizoaffective.
yeah,
Because it happens also.
yeah, because one of the daughters actually did mention that Penelope was very, she was antagonizing. You know what I mean? She
It kind of
liked to
makes me feel like
provoke.
she should have gotten more help before a sentencing happens.
She probably should have. I mean, they were trying the whole temporary insanity was mainly to get her like a manslaughter charge instead of a murder charge.
Right.
Um, I do feel like the judge was somewhat lenient, even though he listened to the calls. Because he could have sentenced her to life in prison, I believe, but he did do a minimum of 18 years. I know that she's appealing, and like I said, she does have the support of a lot of organizations for abused women and abused people. Um, but I don't know. I don't know, this case gives you a lot to think about, to be honest with you, and what I do agree with is that it is hard. I feel two of the jury members, um, did not believe she was guilty of murder, right? And the rest did. 8 did. 8-2. That's what it was. I do believe it's really hard for someone that hasn't gone through abuse to understand that you can't just leave sometimes. I don't think that's easy to understand for someone. So if it's not easy to comprehend, then how can they be judging, someone's state of mind when the crime occurs?
Right.
But that was in the end of today. That was the case of Penelope Jackson murdering her husband David. And
I still just want to say one last thing, and that's it. I can't tell y'all if Penny was right or wrong, but I can say that regardless of what she was, she did it. She admitted to it, and she's doing her time. But is it really just?
I don't know. But till next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.